On the second day of school, Chicopee Comprehensive High School had a scare. A student reported seeing a masked gunman in the building. District, city, and school protocols went into effect. The police arrived in force and evacuated the building slowly and methodically. Displaced students were held at neighboring Lambert-Lavoie Elementary School until police deemed it safe to leave. It ended up being a hoax, but parents and students alike were understandably upset. In reaction to this, Bell to Bell has decided to host a dialogue with police and city decision makers for our first show of the new season, so parents can understand the protocols in place. Welcome to a special edition of Bell to Bell.
I feel safe at school.
I do feel very safe. My teachers always lock the doors.
There are days where I won't feel safe, or there's days I will feel safe.
In this school, people they're weird, crazy, but I don't think they'll go to that extent where it'd be dangerous.
I feel very safe at my school.
But now people say it as if it's not a big deal because it happens all the time.
It scares me because if it's a real or it's a fake one.
I do feel safe in school.
I've seen our principal. Again, he's a big guy. Yeah, we're very pretty safe here.
Sometimes I feel nervous because I get scared if there's actual or real one.
The doors are always locked. That's something that everyone's told, so that just kind of makes you feel good. It's in the back of your head. We know the doors are locked.
Overall, I do. The teachers and staff here put in a lot of effort with our students to make sure that we feel safe and comfortable in our learning environment.
A lot of kids' anxiety based on school violence. If you read when they come to school, they're really nervous to come here. And so they have a great life, but they worry about what happens here.
I feel that the school has done a very good job of ensuring that not only the kids know what to do if something happens, but also has done a nice job educating them of things to look out for.
We're the land of the free, that's what we're called. And we can be who we want, do what we want, but some people don't like to follow those restrictions that we are given at the same time. In the sense, they want to go beyond it and do what they want.
And if the teacher's running around panicking, students are going to panic and it'll create chaos, and I think more people could get injured or killed, whereas if they're calm, say, okay, here's what we need to do, step A, B, C, D.
We have participated in lockdown drills throughout the year, and we perform those drills every year for lockdowns. And it's helpful. It helps us to do a better job knowing where we need to be, how we're going to deal with it, how we're going to communicate with one another.
With all the protocols and stuff that we practice on a very regular basis, I would know where to go. It all depends on what kind of emergency it would be.
I like doing the lockdown drills because they give us help, so if there's ever a real lockdown, we know what to do.
But I have a vast array of inanimate objects in my room at the ready to be thrown, hurled, blocked, defended, hidden behind. The students are well prepared. The first day I go over, I said, if this happens, would you grab your backpack and would you put it on the front of you? Would you put books inside of it? There's dictionaries there.
Overall, I think there are some small tweaks that need to be made throughout the building, safety-wise.
At lunch, I feel like it's not very organized on what we would do. And also, if we're switching classes, they say go to the closest classroom, but if we're on the staircase, that's going to be chaotic.
But I do feel like there should be a couple more cops in the school, at least another one, maybe two. And some people do say the idea of teachers being armed. I do like that idea.
Do I think they need armed security all over the place and armed teachers? No.
So it would be great almost to have from your city or town the emergency notice. There was a drill, there's nothing to be worried about, because I've seen incidents where either in Chicopee or in other schools, parents suddenly arrive at the school and make more of a commotion than needs to happen.
I think our school system's great. I think it's more these places that you are hearing about that are having issues.
There's a lot of crazy people out there, if we stay safe together, they won't be able to harm us.
When I think about all the people in my life who are there to protect me in school are the firefighters, the police, the staff here, and all of the teachers, because they're always there for you, no matter what.
Thanks for joining us for a new season of Bell to Bell. We're starting this season with a special episode on school safety, not just because of the lockdown that happened at Comp on the second day of school, but because in this new world of American culture, where there were 23 school shootings in 2018 alone, we want you to know that your children's safety is our top priority. We realize this is not an issue to take casually or to try to fly under the radar on. I'm a parent myself, and I've been an educator for over 30 years. The thought of someone coming into one of our schools with the intent to do violence both horrifies and angers me. And I am here today to tell you that not just me, but the staff and teachers in each of our buildings, the Chicopee Police, city elected officials, are all doing everything in our power to keep your children safe. We've spent a lot of time preparing for the worst, a worst that we, of course, hope will never happen. These are preparations that are most likely theoretical in nature, but we want you, our viewers, to understand that such preparations have been made and are in place. Here today to talk to us more about the issue are, to my immediate left, Alvin Morton, Assistant Superintendent for Student Services, to his left, Lieutenant Pat Major from the Chicopee Police Department, and to his left, Trooper Andy Kanata from the Mass State Police. All three of these gentlemen have been a major part of all of our training, overseeing our drills for the last 3 or 4 years. So, gentlemen, first of all, thank you for joining me in studio today for what I think is a very important discussion, and I think that not only parents and students and staff, but just people in the general community want to know, where is Chicopee in terms of school safety. So, with that in mind, let's take a look. Maybe our first question should be taking a look at what the students and parents said in the clip that we just saw, and kind of respond to that. Do you feel that students and staff are generally safe in our city as of today, and why or why not?
Mr. Norton.
Well, first, thank you for having me. Next, I want to also recognize Trooper James Carmichael. He was a big part of all the training and things we've done in the last couple of years, so I wanted to recognize him also. I want to echo the sentiments that the majority of people said. I do believe our students and staff are safe in schools. I don't think we can guarantee 100% safety, but I do believe that our students are safer in school than anywhere else, from the mall to the movie theater or wherever it may be, because of the protocols and things we put in place. And as you said in your monologue and said earlier, that we actually practice and drill for the worst and hoping that the worst never happens. Obviously, we can't train for every particular scenario, but I think we train for all the bigger things. And I think the things we put in place, one of the things the teacher talked about is locked doors. That's one big sentiment we've always done, and we always stress on a daily basis and a yearly basis about keeping the doors locked, and also making sure people sign in and sign out to come into the building, buzzing people in and out. So a lot of the simple things people may think sometimes are a headache. So hopefully this will let parents know that a lot of things that we are doing that may cause some type of discomfort to you in some aspect, you have to wait a little bit longer to get into the building, is for the safety and security of staff and students. So I do think our staff and students are safe in our schools.
And Pat, between you and Andy, from a police standpoint, enforcement standpoint, response standpoint, how do you think some of the things that we've done over the last few years have made us safer than we were prior to?
I definitely think that the trainings that we've been conducting, having the state police come in with the program that they offer, the SROs, myself included, any other members of the police department coming in, working with the staff, the students of the schools, everybody's kind of on board now, knowing that the situation across the nation, it's uncertain, but what we're doing now to prepare them for an incident like that, if it were to occur, we can see the responses, the reactions that they're having, and we know that they are prepared for something if it happens.
Andy, how about you? Because from the training aspect, I mean, we can't thank the state police enough for coming and training our entire staff, administrators, we had teachers, secretaries trained on protocols. How do you feel that has helped us be more prepared for what could possibly come?
Well, first, thanks for having us, involving us with the program. It's a pleasure to work with you gentlemen, with both the Chicopee Police and the Chicopee Schools. We have a great working relationship with the Lieutenant Major and the SROs in the schools. They're in the schools every day doing a wonderful job keeping an eye and a hand into what's going on in the buildings, letting administration know, and working through some of the smaller issues. Unfortunately, in modern times, there are things that happen in the community that might impact a school. So we have those plans in place. And like Mr. Morton noted, there are daily procedures that are done for safety and security. So we do have that safe educational environment. That's our goal, that when the kids are in the building and the staff's in the building, have a safe place to work and to learn and be able to have a fruitful education and prosper later on in life.
Great, thank you. On the second day of school, there was an incident at Chicopee Comp. How did the police feel that was handled? And from the debriefing after that, what were some of the takeaways from that major event?
Overall, I believe the incident was handled very well. Obviously, there's going to be some confusion with an incident of that magnitude. The response from our department, from other agencies, was incredible. We had over 53 officers just from our department alone respond to Chicopee Comp or the neighboring area. State Police as well as Holyoke and Ludlow also assisted. From my point of view, it was handled very well. The officers that showed up went in, did the job that they were instructed to do, that we know how to do. The staff was fantastic as well, offering whatever help we needed. A little bit of issues which are to be expected, in an incident of this magnitude, but it also gives us the opportunity to work on those issues, so in case something happens again, we'll be ready for it.
In a real life setting,
Absolutely.
As opposed to knowing that it's a drill and kind of, it's kind of human nature that you go through the motions, but you're not taking it seriously. In this case, we didn't know that it wasn't real until we were into the situation quite a bit. Andy, from your perspective?
I think it showed that the plans worked. And fortunately that it was not something more than it was. And with any incident, whether it's in Chicopee or the Commonwealth or anywhere in the nation, we do reflect afterwards and have an after action. And we memorialize what we've learned from that. And we look at our policies, our procedures, we talk to those involved, and we see how we can enhance it or make it better. Unfortunately, if something ever does occur again.
I mean, on that particular day, I was in command at the evacuation site, and the one tell for me that the training had worked was watching all of our students and staff come over from comp in an extremely calm and orderly fashion. There was no panic. There was no yelling or screaming. There was, it was very orderly. And as I think one of the parents said, order is probably your biggest help in a situation like that. Maintain order, not let panic set in where you're kind of losing control of the situation. So I would agree that I think the training that we've done for years really helped in that situation. We have kind of 4 emergency management response protocols that would handle a variety of situations, because we never know exactly precisely what a situation is going to face us, but we have 4 basic protocols. We have the lockdown, shelter in place, evacuation, and then severe weather. So in any order, whoever wants to chime in, can you maybe define a little bit about what those are and how they'd be used?
So just to give a little bit of background and take a step back,
sure.
The after action report actually showed us that I think the drills have helped out in the situation at comp, but also showed us that we need to take the next step in our actual training, which is the reunification drills. So what we have done this year for the 18-19 school year, we have started doing reunification training for all the schools. We rolled it out at Chicopee Comp, and all the principals were there from the schools, but Comp was the first staff to get that. So that's the next line of succession in our drilling drilling skills, and next schedule is reunification. So we're eventually looking to do a full-scale reunification drill for the District of Chicopee. Maybe take one school at a time, but we're looking to do that.
That's right.
And as I go back to your next point was about the 4 basic protocols, lockdown, shelter in place, evacuation, and severe weather. Well, the lockdown, all teaching and learning ceases and stops, and people go to their designated areas in the building and the classroom. With the actual shelter in place, teaching and learning continues, but people are out of the common areas, and shelter in place is more so used in a medical situation. We got to take somebody out of the building. And the lockdown, to take a step back, is more so when you may have an active shooter or something in the building, or there may be some type of incident outside of the building that causes for a lockdown, but in most cases a shelter in place. The evacuation speaks for itself when pretty much it's the fire drills. And then if you have to evacuate and relocate somewhere else because of something going on in the building, or if you go outside and something happens, we still do a reverse evacuation, often evacuation, but it's more so associated with fire drills. In the severe weather, nobody would ever think in New England we would have a tornado or something like that, but we did have a tornado probably about, I would say, 4 to 5 years ago. And now we've designated areas in the building for people to actually go to if we have some type of severe or major weather threat.
So every building has a safe place.
Correct.
If there were severe weather that was predicted.
Correct.
And they got them. Okay.
And I don't know if these gentlemen want to chime in on any of those too also.
Maybe just to add to a little bit the shelter-in-place aspect. I know I've gotten in contact with Mr. Warren before. The police department has had some incidences in the general area of the schools where we've had to call when we might not have felt it was safe for the students to be let out at the time, so we had them shelter in place until the situation was resolved.
So again, I mean, in all of these cases, student safety is the paramount, important thing here that we're all thinking about. And while that may be an inconvenience sometimes for parents who say, well, how come my child's not going to be home at the exact time that they're always home, or how come I can't go onto school grounds to pick them up? There's a reason for all of these things, and they're all targeted around children's safety. I think it's important for parents to know that. Normally in these situations, and as a parent and now as a grandparent, I think about what would my first reaction be if I got a call or I heard that there was an intruder or a possible shooter in my child's building. And I think human nature would say the first thing you'd want to do is jump in your car and go. Why is that a bad idea? And what did we see the day of the comp incident that kind of proves that it's a bad idea? Anyone?
I would have to say it's definitely a bad idea. We don't recommend people showing up at the school itself due to the fact that there's going to be a multitude of responders showing up there to resolve the situation, to keep the children, the staff safe. And we need to have that as organized as we can without having outside interference. Everybody would understand the fact that you want to get in there and make sure that your child is safe, but we have to just ask you to not show up at that site. We'll get information out through official channels as quickly as we can to let you know where you can go to pick up your child.
Andy, anything else?
The scene itself might not be safe. We have the emergency protocols and plans in place for the students and the staff, but we can't, with our manpower, anticipate for a large crowd to deal with the problem that's occurring, keep the staff and students safe, and then anyone else who self-deploys, as we call it, to the scene. It's very cumbersome, and we don't have enough resources to be able to allocate to that at that time.
And I would just say from where my command post was, I mean, we had some state troopers coming in from as far away as Sturbridge, the Sturbridge barracks. By the time they were arriving, they couldn't get close to the school, so they were walking a quarter of a mile to get to the response, to be in a position to help out. And that's clearly not beneficial. One of the other issues is in trying to get buses in to evacuate students out, we had a hard time clearing the road in front of Lambert-Lavoie to get buses in because parents' cars were parked all over. So while I know it's a natural response, please, I would ask parents to try to fight against that immediate inclination and wait until you get information on where the reunification site is going to be, whether the grounds around the school are safe. And while we're on the topic of communication, I think that's an important one. We know that social media takes on a life of its own. And I think that most people would agree that when you are considering social media as your primary form of information, about 75% it's going to be incorrect. So talk a little bit about who should parents be waiting to hear from, and what information can they generally trust with respect to what next steps should be for them.
So to add to with your question, first, the comp situation was probably the perfect storm, because when the actual call was made for lockdown, it was almost the time for the end of school. So that was the perfect storm. And then when we actually evacuated and reunified at Lambert-Lavoie, it was time for Lambert-Lavoie to be let out. Just to add to those particular points. But one of the things I would say that parents should refrain from actually texting or calling their kids on their cell phones, because that jams up the airways and the communication for all the emergency responders and things of that nature. But the big point too is when you actually get to the reunification piece of it, parents need to make sure that our student information system in school brings. Each and every year we hand out an enrollment packet. They need to make sure that information is up to date, current, and working, from cell phones to emergency contacts, and have current and updated picture ID, some type of ID to actually inform us who you are. So when it comes to reunification piece, we're making sure we're actually releasing the students to the proper people they should be released to. But the biggest point I would say for parents, and I know this is hard as a parent, being a parent myself, is trust the process, because our priority is to make sure all students and staff are safe. That's easier said than done for a parent being at home, seeing that something's going on, but we have your kids' interests best at hand. We want to make sure they're safe and secure, so refraining from texting and actually calling your kids is a big thing for us.
And how about the communication piece going out to parents as to what they should be doing or what's going on? Are we relying on, you know, the Chicopee Police Department website, Pat? Is that the primary source where they knew they could trust that information? Would it be somebody from the school department putting out an all-call to parents of those schools? I'm assuming in these situations, generally you have an incident command post where some of those decisions would be made. And I guess either one of those two could probably be trusted, either the school department directly or the police. What they shouldn't be doing is relying on social media, though,
Correct.
for believing what's going on or what should be happening or what's happening next, correct?
Correct. At the start and after the first few minutes that an incident is going on, there will be a representative, normally our public information officer, will be on scene or close by, addressing media concerns, getting information out to the media so that could be passed on to parents to give them updates on the situation. And what we've worked out is that at some point, possibly Mr. Morton or another official from the school will get in touch with our public information officer, so that way we can have a unified information source to go out to the parents.
Good. Andy, anything you want to add on that piece?
Just following the prescribed information lines is very helpful, and not reposting things that might not be true.
Okay, right.
Folks getting information from another person in town, not the police or the schools or the fire department or an official source.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Of course, one of the things that I find happens again and again surrounding matters of school safety is the discussion. People want to know, why are these things happening? I mean, were they always happening, and just with lacking a 24/7 news cycle that we're in today, people didn't hear about it as much, or is there definitely an increase in these types of incidents? And why do you think that is? What do you think the source of the increase is?
I think there's a variety of reasons, and I think each situation is different, but there is some similarities in all of them. And if I had to narrow it down to two, I would probably say the first thing is mental health. I think we need to address the mental health issues, and us in Chicopee are trying to each and every year to put more tools in the tool belts of teachers, counselors, and paraprofessionals so they can better handle those situations by identifying, assessing, and addressing those mental health matters. And I think the other thing would probably be that I think not all students, but a lot of students that are in school now lack social, emotional, and coping skills. And evidence of that is that schools are now teaching social, emotional learning and teaching social competency. And I think that kids that lack these type of coping skills or coping mechanisms turn to negative coping mechanisms. Therefore, they see things in TV, whether social media or whatever it may be, and they emulate things, when I think this generation is also a generation that needs immediate gratification or immediate answers or immediate response. And if you don't know how to interact properly with people, then I think you turn to negative ways of trying to express what you're really trying to communicate, because I think all behavior is some form of communication, whether negative or positive. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think public schools are a good teaching mechanism, not just for the academics you get, but I truly believe they're a microcosm of society, because people are also getting an education in how to deal with different people from different backgrounds, different ethnicities and stuff for the real world. So this is a teaching mechanism for them to see, okay, how do I deal with other people? I'm not always going to like everybody I'm going to school with or who I work with or whatever it may be. So I think all these things are learned in school. But if I had to narrow down to two things, I would say mental health and the lack of social, emotional skills and coping skills.
And I'll ask our two law enforcement experts, from a law enforcement perspective, what would you see as some of the causal factors?
I think
in what seems to be an increase anyway in school violence.
The incidents like this have been going on for probably 100 years. Of course, over time, since the incident at Columbine, it's become a little more sensationalized, a little more high up in the media. realm. So, plus the advent of social media, like you says, everybody has access to it now. The internet, you can go and research the types of incidents that have happened. And I also somewhat agree with what Mr. Morton was saying. When you look into how these incidents have unfolded, at least in recent history over the 10 or 15 years, there's always been some sort of sign that was usually discovered after the incident happened. So what we've been trying to do and add into our training, add into how we try to stop these events from happening, is get to a point before the incident happens so we can, foreseeably stop it from happening.
Andy?
Oh, I agree 100% with both what Mr. Morton and the Lieutenant said. Trying to have, on the school side of things, staff being, identify kids in distress. There might be something going on at home where they need some assistance with, that there's a change in living arrangements, or there's a lack of food in the house. There's things that we found out that are going on that help build up to bigger problems that obviously the child, the student needs some support to get through that. Identifying folks in need is something we're trying to do in general, I think, with all of our efforts. But I think mental health and the exposure to violence, don't help, what we're trying to do here.
Right. Well, our producer went back out to the schools to interview, I think, students and parents about what they thought of the reasons for why they're seeing and hearing more about this. So let's take a look at that clip for a minute.
The community was very involved in the school system when I went to school a long time ago. And now when you go to school, it's the administrator and the teachers, and when you're at home, it's the parents. And I think we've bifurcated that way too much.
There's a lot of other sources to socialize, video games, social media, all of that I feel like people aren't getting enough face-to-face connections with people. And when you're always by yourself and always alone, there's just many possibilities of things that you could be doing. So I definitely think a lack of human-to-human connection is missing.
I don't think it's like the staff or like the teachers that's a problem, but like more like the students and how they treat each other. You know what I mean? Because if you're gonna get bullied, then you're gonna want to take it out on the bullies, and do some crazy stuff.
I don't think they're equipped to deal with failure.
I think it's because it's been brought to people's attention that this is actually possible. So like school shootings, like people would think like, oh, this would be so hard, I could never do it. But people have done it, and then it makes sense, and it gets a lot of publicity. And I think the publicity makes it more of a thing they want to do.
If the media was going to portray these people like they did, then you just gave a whole bunch of people who were either mentally unstable in the school or otherwise, you gave them somebody to look up to.
I think people are not getting the help they need as far as, emotional support, things like that. I think there's a crisis in our country.
If the parents were to have guns, they won't have somewhere to lock it up. So a child could steal a gun easily, I feel like, and then if they feel bullied or something, they want to take it out on other students.
We need, in this building, in this system, we need far more mental health experts running around this building. They say, oh, go to a guidance counselor. Guidance counselors are overloaded. We have one mental health specialist, and she's divided among 2 schools, maybe even 3, because of budget cuts. So what do you do? Say, oh, sweetie, you can't have a breakdown. Wait till Thursday when the mental health professional's here. You can't do that.
How do we handle failure? Do we get mad? Do we go home and do we get a gun and say, well, you know what? It's my teacher's fault that I failed that test. I'm going to go and shoot them. Or do we say, you know what? That's on me. I need to go and I need to study more.
If you're busy and you're active and you're finding people that you can form relationships with, it would be my sense that those are the kind of things that are going to help.
So I think when you listen to some of the voices of our own parents, teachers, and students, it's somewhat reflective of the national debate on what the reasons are and what proper responses should be. Whether it's limit the number of guns in society, whether it's arming teachers, not arming teachers, more clinical social workers in the schools, what have you. And we can agree to disagree on certain types of responses or needs here. But I think for the purpose of this discussion, I think the thing that I would want to stress the most is that golden rule of see something, say something, right? And it's a simple little mantra to have in the back of your head. But from your three perspectives, how do you convince people in the general public who see something that they think might be a little bit off to actually, kind of stick their nose in and say something to somebody to check it out and have them not feel like they're, interfering in someone else's business or they're ratting somebody out? How do we communicate that in a way so that we can increase the amount of just general intel that we get that may have in fact saved a number of lives in the cases that we've talked about here today, had it been done? Because clearly, Andy, as you said, in many of these cases, there were signs that something was off, including the latest shooting in the bank in Florida. There were signs on this guy, and people just didn't seem to get it or be able to do anything about it. So any thoughts on that as we get close to a wrap-up here?
I think that it's about building relationships, and I think that's teaching one-on-one, or even being a human being is building relationships. So even if it's just a simple hi or getting a conversation and knowing more about an individual, and that, as somebody said in the video we just showed, that the face-to-face contact, just having that contact, having the conversation, and people are, if somebody's really having a problem, in most cases they're going to talk to you and and put some things out there that okay, all right, this is what's going on, and try to get an understanding what's going on. But then when you actually there's some really truly signs out there that something may transpire, especially in school, and the kid's going through a difficult thing, then identify. There's got to be at least one person in the school that the kid has a good relationship with, feels comfortable with, whether it's the lunch lady, whether it's the noon attendant, whether it's the paraprofessional, the teacher, the custodian, whatever it may be, somebody you feel comfortable with, to put that information out there, and therefore we can support that child in a positive way. And I do believe that we need to get some more tools for teachers and staff in the building when it comes to mental health, and hopefully that the federal government and the state government put some money behind it in order so we can address some of these things, because that's one of the key things that keeps popping up after the fact. This child exhibited some type of mental health or what's going on, and for us, we're starting to see that students are experiencing and exhibiting mental health issues at earlier and earlier ages, even into elementary school, starting in elementary school. So this is, I think, an epidemic and a situation that needs to be addressed sooner than later. But I think the main thing is just trying to have conversations and building relationships with people.
Guys, anything?
Yeah, if I can echo a little bit on that, it's definitely my opinion, and I'm sure the opinion of most other police officers around the country, that we would much rather have somebody come bring something to our attention that we can look into, rather than have the opinion of I don't really think I believe what that person was telling me. So if we can go in there and have somebody come tell us some information that we can look into, and if we find out that it's a simple hoax or whatever, somebody just talking off the cuff, great. But if it leads us to something a little more bringing up our alert level that something could possibly happen, then this person could have saved some lives by letting us know what's going on.
Andy?
Well, yeah, I agree 100% with what both you gentlemen said. The other thing is, and I'll use a student's perspective, coming forward because they're concerned about a friend or a classmate, and going to talk to a parent or a trusted adult or a staff member about what's going on. Concern for someone's safety is not ratting someone out, because not only is it them, it's yourself, and it's your other classmates and the staff and students in the building. So if we can discreetly get someone, and that's what happens, and I don't know if folks realize that or not, it's not always a police problem. So a lot of these problems are dealt with in the school, with the counselors and the staff, the administration. Things can be handled, and if it's a simple fix or something that can be addressed through a set of protocols, then that's the process it'll take, and we can avoid any occurrence for something going further down the road that never had to get to that point.
Great point. That's a great point. So we're quickly getting to the end of our program here. I'm sure for some of you it might felt like an hour, but it goes quickly for me. I think we gave a lot of great information today, and hopefully it's going to make our viewing public feel that we are on top of this situation, and that they should feel that their children are going to be, as safe as possibly we can make it for them. And I just want to thank the three of you for coming in to join me. I'm indebted to all three of you for the tremendous amount of work that you've done. It certainly makes my job as superintendent easier, and I go home every night not having to worry about whether our kids will be safe the next day, or if there is an incident that they won't know what to do. So again, thank you so much for everything that you do. And I would just say to the public that tuned in, your students, they're our top priority, and many city and state staff are ensuring that the golden rule, if you see something, say something. Police and school administration, we can't be everywhere all the time. So many eyes and many voices will make our community a safer place. With respect to upcoming events, winter sports, you can contact and see the schedules available on the district website at chickabeeps.org. That's Chicopee PS for public schools. On snow days, keep your fingers crossed that I don't have to call many. So far, it's been pretty good. And remember that I will always make those decisions on what I feel is the best interest of student safety. And please tune in March when the next edition of Bell to Bell will feature the community at DuPont Middle School. Thanks everybody for watching. See you next time.